Hi, everyone. It's Jill Whalen from whatdidyoudo.with Jill.com, and I'm here today to interview Ankush Jain, who has once interviewed me about relationships. And today we're going to talk about powerfulness, powerful women, and just people having their power in general. I saw that Ankush is doing a powerful immersion for women now. I think he's been doing men's ones for a while. And, I was curious about that because here he is a man and running a group for women. I thought, I don't know. Would I be interested in something like that? It sounded interesting. Anyway, I wanted to talk to Ankush about it and get his point of view about what it is he's doing and just about powerful women and people in general. So welcome, Ankush.
Hey Jill, thanks for having me here.
So tell me, what you as a man running a powerful women's immersion group, how does that come about, and what qualifies you to do something like that?
I know, how dare I as a man run something like that for women? Stick to your own kind. That's Yeah, it's kind of funny because I didn't ever imagine that I would do something like this. I've been, as you pointed out, I've been running events for men for the last 2 years, just over 2 years. And I've run 6 different immersions. They've all sold out. They've gone really well. And I've learned from them, and I've kept them all around this theme of showing up more powerfully. And I think I approached the theme very differently to, what certainly I'd seen. I got into the self-development world when I was 19. I'm 34 now, and I've been professionally coaching for about 4 years. So for about 11 years, I was very much, and I still am. I still learn all the time, but I was very much just a student going to other people's events, learning. And I find that I come up being powerful from a different angle. And I had other clients, and I had female clients, and the female clients I had would ask me, when are you going to run an event for women? We want something for women. And I said, no, I'm a man. So I with this sort of stuff, I'm going to talk to men because I know about men things. And earlier this year, I had a feeling when I was doing my men's event, and I had a feeling that I was going to do something different. And it's really weird to try, it's kind of strange to say that, like a feeling. What do you mean? I don't know. It was kind of like a gut intuition that I was going to do something different next year, but I had no idea what it was. And the more I thought about it, I still got nothing. I thought about it blank, but I had this inner gut thing. And I did my immersion for men, and that went fine. And it was only after it was done, I thought, suddenly it occurred to me, like, oh wow, okay, I want to do one of these for women. And it didn't come with a lot of thought. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't, a whole lot of thought gone into it. I just thought, yeah, I'd like to do one of these for women. And let me just see whether I'm off base here. I like testing things out. And I put it out to one of the groups that you're in, Jill. And I got a really, really great response. And there were quite a few women who said, yeah, we'd certainly be interested to know more about it. And so then I set up all these conversations, and I'm talking to these women, and the whole thing's kind of emerged. Like I don't want to lie and say, well, I had this vision for what it was going to be, and then like I put it out there, and now it's turned into this thing. I really didn't. I had an inkling. I had an idea that this could be fun to do, and I could I could really help people. I could really help some women, because we're ultimately human beings at the end of the day. I think just in society and in culture, we really talk about the differences between men and women. Men are like this, women are like this, And what I've seen in my own journey is we're actually far, far, far more, we're more the same, we're more similar than I think anything in pop culture really talks about. And I've always been drawn to that, for myself. And I see it when I talk to my female friends and I talk to my male friends. The content might look different on the surface, but what's really going on is the same thing. And so as I was talking to women about what this looks like, what it might look like, what I cover, how I've done my men's events, it just started becoming more and more obvious that everyone's looking for the same thing. And, you know, you might be thinking, well, then why do it for women? Why not just have a mixed group? And the reason for that is I do believe there is a certain dynamic when you get a bunch of men together. And I believe there will be a certain dynamic when you get a bunch of women together. That's not to say I wouldn't ever do a mixed group, never say never. Who knows, I might do one day. But I do find that there is a different space created. There's a different dynamic in the room when we have just one sex in the room. And so I wanted to do that for women. And I know other men who have run women's events and run them successfully. And I find that some people have really been uninterested. You know, some people have not really said it to my face, but I'm sure some people are probably thinking, what on earth are you doing? Right. But there are a few women who've contacted me, and maybe they know me a little bit. They've experienced some of the stuff I do, and they've been really keen to be part of this. And as of today, I wanted it to be a maximum of 12 women, and we've either had deposits or put on hold half the places already.
Nice.
You know, which was a little bit surprising, but it showed me that this wasn't just something that was, you know, just a good idea. There is some desire for this. And what I find with my men's events as well is that people will convince themselves why they will come on an intellectual level. But actually the reason they come is often quite a lot deeper than that. It's not really anything that I could put on a sales page. It's not really, I'm coming because I want this fixed, or you know, I feel I'm broken, or I need help in this area. I find that people tend to come, the men that come to my events, they come because they resonate on a deep level with something that I've said. And sometimes they can't even put that into words. And what happens is when they come, something tends to shift for them. And then they come again and again, you know, because it keeps happening. Things keep shifting. And I said after I've done 3 this year. After I did the second one, I said, I do an awful lot of work. I love my one-on-one coaching, but I felt like, you know, if I was judged by the quality and the work I do on these immersions, you know, in a professional way, you know, I could kind of hang my boots up happy, and I'm very proud of these. And so I know that for women as well, there's something really special, not in me, not in even any content, but I think there's something really special in pointing people to their own capacity and potential. And one of the things I've been saying, which seems to resonate with people, is that if we get quiet, we all know on some level that we are far, far, far more capable than we are showing up in the world. And I used to think that was just me, but the more I say it, the more people seem to resonate with that. And it seems to be this thing where I find you have the traditional self-help world where it's like, go, 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 push, 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 push. And that doesn't seem to work. I mean, it works to the extent it works, but it you know, there's limitations to that. Then there kind of seems to be the more self-help spiritual side, which is you're okay as you are, see the beauty in the ordinariness of who you are, and there's nothing to do, which is great. And I've been really drawn to, you know, I was probably on this side with the push, 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 and then I kind of got drawn to the more calmer side, should I say? And I now see that there's a middle ground. So yes, we're ordinary. Yes, there's a beautiful ordinariness about every single human being, and yet. And this is not coming from an ego place around like, oh, but you're amazing. Not from an egocentric way, but I do believe that there is something inside every single human being, this capacity that it's like a small flame. And I see this, I said this metaphor today to a client, that I see a small flame in them that is desperate to become a roaring fire. And the only thing that's stopping it becoming a roaring fire is misunderstanding. Is it some misunderstanding somewhere that they've got? And I use the word misunderstanding and not thinking, because I don't want people to think that I'm saying something's wrong with your thinking. Your thinking's fine, right? We have thoughts all day long, different things, that's fine. The problem is that misunderstanding. The problem is that people interpret some of the thoughts they have in a certain way, which keeps them small, which keeps them safe from an ego point of view, but is not the most beautiful manifestation of who they could be in this world.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. Especially, I mean, you say, and I agree that, you know, men and women really are all the same, but I talk to a lot of women too, and the power, they do, a lot of them do seem to feel this powerlessness, which does seem to hold them back. Can you just talk about a little more what you mean by, you know, powerful? You know, what would that mean for a woman or a man?
So it's a great question, Jill. And like I said, I don't want anyone to think I'm an expert. I'm not a woman, right? As you can tell. And I'm just sharing, and what I do in my business and everything else, what I'm sharing is just what makes sense to me. Now, some people may disagree with that. That's okay. But I'm just sharing what makes sense to me, and it seems to help people. So this is just my opinion, right? That's my caveat. For me, I think an awful lot of people feel powerless in some way, shape, or form in some part of their life. And we can attribute a whole host of things to that. I used to feel a certain amount of powerlessness when I experienced racism. And it could have been a very subtle form of racism. And thankfully it wasn't anything particularly, you know, hardcore. But for example, when I was a little bit younger and I used to go out to nightclubs, there were certain nightclubs in my home city which wouldn't let you in if you were, you know, if you had colored skin. And I remember going out to a nightclub for a friend's birthday. It was her 25th birthday. There was a, you know, group of us, you know, 8 or 9. And actually, I think there was something like 3 guys and like 6 or 7 girls. So I can understand nightclubs tend to have a policy. We don't want big groups of guys in here. But it was actually a majority female group. We were out for her birthday. She worked in a big 4 consultancy. Every one of us was professionals. Every one of us was smartly dressed. All the typical things that you could be turned away for in a nightclub, you know, was not there. You know, there was no reason. And the only reason we were turned away, not that they said it, but the only reason we were turned away was the color of our skin. And it was a kind of a nightclub that's apparently was known for this. And, you know, two white gentlemen who were wearing T-shirts, who weren't smartly dressed or anything else, who didn't look older than us. There was nothing like that. We weren't even asked for ID. It wasn't an age thing. Walked in off the street, and we said, "How come they've just walked in?" "Oh, they were in here before," and they blatantly weren't. They were. It was really. They'd literally just walked in, and I used to feel a certain powerlessness about that. You know, like life is unfair. You know, things are a certain way. I can't do anything about it. And the power was always with someone else. If you're a white male, you know, from a certain socioeconomic background, you've got all this power, and it's unfair. And there's nothing I can do about it. Or I used to get really upset and angry and like, I need to change the world because this, you know, to right these wrongs. And I see a lot of this stuff with regards to, you know, women online and things like that. And I'm not a woman. So, you know, if someone thinks I'm talking nonsense, that's absolutely your prerogative, and I haven't experienced what you've experienced, and I appreciate that, and I want to be very respectful of that. What I will say is that what I've seen for me is that all the power I was looking for was inside of me. It wasn't like a white man had certain power that I didn't have, and it was because it was the color of his skin, or it's because of the culture I lived in. Actually, everything that I was really looking for with regards to power was in here. And what I see, and I believe for women are far, far more powerful than they realize. And I really, I come from a culture and a background, hopefully, in the way I've been brought up, is to really, really respect women. I've been brought, from a Hindu faith where, women, we call them mata, and they're revered and respected, and the goddess. And really in my culture, women, power, Shakti, is portrayed as a woman, right? And I see women are incredibly powerful, and I have some incredibly powerful women in my family, not least to say my wife, and my sisters and nieces and nephews, and there's some fantastic, incredible, powerful women in my family, and good on them. But all of that power really is inside every single human being. It's inside every single woman. And I really want to help in whatever way I can, women and men, tap into that, because that's what we're really looking for. And it's the great thing about it is it is accessible, right? If power is with men and you're a woman, that's difficult, right? If power is down to society, that's difficult. If power is down to a certain color of your skin, that's difficult. But if power is inside of us, that's, for me, very hopeful, because we can all access that. And when we look around, I see people which we would consider having disadvantages being incredibly powerful. Like if I look at Barack Obama, now people may disagree with his policies, people may disagree with various things that he's done, but what is fair to say is he came from, disadvantaged background, you could say, in terms of the color of his skin in a certain way. That's a disadvantage in the US. No one would think that a black person could become president of the United States. Certainly, there was a Chris Rock did a comedy sketch, which is funny. He's like, you can't even pretend you didn't know with his name. It wasn't like he was called John Smith and he snuck in on the register. It's like he was, Barack Obama, right? And he became the president of the United States, one of the most powerful men on the planet. And Michelle, right, is a very powerful woman. And we see examples of people who are like us, who are very powerful, and we admire and we look up to. And we sometimes think that there's something different about them. They are an exception. That's down to their personality. That's down to something else that I haven't got. But it's simply not true. It really isn't. And I want to open up this conversation, because I think there's far too much conversation going around, fighting the system, right? And to me, that just seems like and I used to be like that. Oh my God, I was like that. Really, I was. And, I have this whole element of like fairness in me. And for me, I don't want to fight the system anymore. But or what I perceive as a system, I really want to show people the power that we've got, because there is no system in the world, there's no culture in the world that can hold us back from shining when we tap into that.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. I mean, I think a lot of what holds women back, especially, is, putting themselves out there, because, I know I was a pioneer in my industry before, and the very few women, was in the tech sector of marketing as well, but so there weren't very many women, and I was very vocal, but I had a whole lot of haters because of it. It didn't bother me because I have a thick skin, and and I think a lot of people appreciated that about me, that I did put myself out there and I said different things than everybody else. And so I would have, I think people would have said, oh, she was a powerful woman in that space, at least. Where, of course, at home, I was a completely different person, but that's another story. I think that's a little scary for some people who maybe other women who saw me do that. Some of my friends in the industry would be like, no, I'm not, I'm staying away from that. They didn't want the criticism that could potentially come with that power, or, like Hillary Clinton. I mean, how many people just don't like her because she's a powerful woman? What do you have to say about that?
That's such a great question. And I want to come back to the same point, right? Which is that power is inside of us. Now, if that power is if the power is outside of us somewhere, in a job, in a title, in something else, in money, then it's really dangerous to be criticized, because that can be taken away from us. But when power really comes from inside us, and I'm not saying this is easy, I'm not saying, oh, it's as simple as that. I understand. I'm not stupid. We've got a lot of conditioning that we've received our whole lives, but I want to open up that space for people to see this more clearly, that everything we look for is inside of us. And when we see that, when that misunderstanding drops away, we can show up powerfully, and all of the haters, that's less of an issue. Not because you've got a thick skin, or you're more affected because you've got a thin skin. Our skin is the same thickness, right? We've all got the same thickness skin. It's down to our minds, right? So when we see that differently, when we drop our misunderstandings, that becomes less relevant. And I'm not saying you won't, you might get criticism and you won't feel bad. Yes, sometimes I get criticized. I don't particularly enjoy it from time to time. But when I know deep down inside that's got nothing to do with who I am, and it's got nothing to do with my own innate power, I just carry on going. And I remember someone saying to me, like, oh, I wish I had your confidence, or I wish I was as brave as you. And I said, you are. I said, there is nothing special about me. And I want to model, for my clients and for other people, I really want to model leadership for other people, in terms of, I want to, if as a coach, if I'm telling someone to do something, what leg have I got to stand on if I'm not prepared to do it myself? And so I really want to model that for other people and show, look, there's nothing special about me, and I can do it. And yes, I get scared. Yes, I don't like criticism. Yes, all of these are the things that we all think about. Yes, all the time I cringe. I mean, you helped me out on my relationship series podcast, and I listened back to some of the early episodes and I cringe, like, oh my God, it was so terrible. But that's okay, not because, again, I've got a thick skin or anything. People used to say I'm really sensitive. In fact, they used to say the opposite about me. And it wasn't that I grew a thick skin overnight, but it was through seeing that it doesn't matter what people think about me. And I really used to have a problem with that, right? And it comes out of misunderstanding. Now, one of the things that I see with the few women that I do work with and I coach is that women tend to do a lot for others. Women tend to put others, seemingly, this is one thing I do notice more than men, and it's not clear cut, it's not black and white, you get exceptions, but just as a generalization, women tend to put others before themselves more often than men do. And I point that out often to my female clients, but the behavior is not really the issue. The behavior is a symptom, right? So putting other people in front of yourself to your own detriment, and then it's like, if you run around, I mean, mothers are great at this, right? They run around after the whole family, and then they're so tired, and then they get cranky, right? And that's not helpful to anyone. But that behavior looks like it's the problem, but it's not the problem. That behavior is a symptom. It's a symptom of misunderstanding, right? Because what I see with some mothers is that they feel like they need to look after everyone else first. Like they need to do that. They have to. Like that comes first over their own well-being.
Yeah.
And that's simply not true. It's a misunderstanding. So as we tend to drop our misunderstandings around what is powerful, what we need to do, how we can show up in the world, what's possible, then we do get to show up more powerfully. And so instead of like looking up to you, Jill, and going, oh, wow, she's a powerful woman in that space, I couldn't do that, or I'm scared. Well, I'm sure you were scared too. And here's the flip side. You said, well, I wasn't the same at home, but that's another story. I thought that was really great that you said that, because we all have areas of our lives where people look up to us, and really, I mean this. People go, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say. I used to be a really scared, shy, insecure 19-year-old kid, and it used to shock me when someone would come up to me and go, I used to be jealous of you, and I was like, what were you jealous of? I was so insecure, right? But we are powerful in areas of our life, or more so than other people. Right? In some area, we have areas that we're stronger in, areas that we're weaker in. That's just a human condition. And the areas that we don't feel as powerful in, or we don't show up as powerfully, that's just an area where we've got some misunderstanding, but the capacity is still there.
Yeah. And it's great to be able, I think when you show it to people that way, with like for me, I know it helped me so much in my personal life when I was able to be powerful in my business and have people be giving me credit and stuff. It made me realize, wait a minute, maybe I am, I'm not shy, or maybe I'm not, it just to see that I'm not these labels that I created, to be able to see it helped me to be more outgoing or whatever in personal life, and I just had more self-esteem over time. I mean, it did take a while, but yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to all that stuff that you're saying, and it's I could see it being really helpful. I think even like the thick skin is just the misunderstanding. It's just knowing that not, I didn't care what people thought of me, because I knew it had nothing to do with me. It had only to do with them. And I could actually, there was like certain types of people that were the haters usually, and you could always tell they were this certain type, that, and it had more to do with the way, whatever, the way they were brought up. And so, and that can apply to every area of your life in terms of powerfulness. Oops. All right. So we've got about 10 minutes left that we can do on this. So is your event, is it an in-person thing or is it an online?
It's an in-person thing. I think there's something very special about being in a room together. I think it's very different than online. Again, it's just a different dynamic. It's a different space. So yeah, it's in person. It's going to be in Birmingham, England. It's the 20 to the 23rd of April, 2017. Yeah. So yeah, it's in person.
Okay, cool. Too far for me to go.
Well, we do have an airport in Birmingham.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's great. So you're already halfway full. That's awesome. Where would people be able to find more information about it?
So at the moment, I have no registration page. I tend, because my immersions are so small and so intimate, I kind of say I'm the sales page, I'm the registration page. So if anyone's interested, just contact me. My website is ankushjain.co.uk. There's a contact me section on that. You can send me an email. A lot of people probably know me through Facebook, so you can contact me on Facebook, and what I will do is we can have a conversation. Anyone that knows me know I don't do any heavy selling or anything like that. I know that, we talk, and if it feels right, people tend to know, and that we'll move forward. And if not, that's great, and we'll have a nice conversation.
That's great. That sounds awesome. Any last words? I think, you've explained it all nicely to me. So, and I think people can get a lot just out of this conversation about their own power.
Yeah, I hope so. One thing I will say is that, we're talking about criticism and insecurity. And I just want to make this really clear as well for me. I right now am feeling a little insecure, being interviewed, talking, to a woman about a woman's immersion. There's a little part of me that's going, oh my God, what if I get a load of hate for this? What are people going to think about it? All of that stuff. And that's okay, because here's the thing. I would have had those thoughts a few years ago. And because of those thoughts, I would have stopped myself, and I would have dialed myself down, and I would have kept myself safe and secure. That doesn't mean I don't feel fear now, or insecurity. I still feel it, but it doesn't stop me. And I want people to see that for themselves, because I'm a big believer in people. I'm very, very hopeful, and I'd love people to see more about that for themselves. And if people don't come to the event, but they get something out of this, that's so great for me, because I really want this message to get out there to people, that it's not about being powerful, the rah powerful, and amassing wealth and power over people or something. This is really about seeing the power within oneself, and when we see that, just really the possibilities are endless. And I say that because anyone that's known me for a long time knows how much I've shifted in the last few years, and I would have been the last person that people would have said, I'm going to be doing an event for women about how to be powerful, or even for men. And seeing it in others too, that really the potential and possibilities are just so much bigger than we can imagine. So
yeah, and it's really just, from what you're saying and from my understanding as well, I mean, it's power over your own misunderstandings, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're just all confused in your head, and if you believe it, instead of just, like you said, you're nervous about this, but you just do it. You just do it anyway, because your nervousness or your fear is just a misunderstanding.
Yeah. Maybe a great way to say it is, we are all already powerful. We just don't know it.
Right. I could go on for a whole bunch of stuff about that, but we'll end this here. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today, and we'll get this out to people in a few minutes, probably, when we're done.
Well, thanks, Jill. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for interviewing me. It's fun being on the other side, if you like, for a change, and really enjoyed this conversation.
All right, thank you. And anyone can find me at whatdidyouDoWithJill.com. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oops.